Before we get started, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the content that is released by Go Collect. And if you're interested, head over to Regie Collects here on YouTube. Regie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector and the host of the Go Collect speculation video, and I want to welcome you to another episode. Before we get going with looking at this week's blog post, I want to bring something to your attention. Go Collect is actually the official sponsor of all the virtual events that are taking place at Wizard World, and I want to encourage you to head over to wizardworld.com so that you can see the full rundown of all the events that they actually have planned, because there may be some that you want to participate in. Now, with that said, let's get going with this week's blog post. And this first one, I can tell you, is one that you want to check out. And it is near and dear to my heart because this first blog post talks about red ocean and blue ocean. And this is something that I talk about a lot on my channel. And Ariel, the blogger, actually does a pretty solid job of highlighting some blue ocean books that you may want to check out. And a blue ocean book is essentially an undervalued book that you may be able to pick up because no one's really paying attention to these books, but they have a great deal of potential. And so in this blog post, Ariel highlights several books that may be of interest to you. I'm only going to talk about a couple of them because I want you to check out the blog post for yourself. The first two books that he talks about are essentially related. It's basically the same book. And what we're talking about is Fantastic Four number 66. And this is essentially the cameo appearance of him, aka Adam Warlock. And there is a ton of excitement, a ton of noise about this character. A lot of people believe that he will be making his appearance in the MCU at some point. But here's the thing. No one's looking at this book right now. A lot of people are looking at the Ultimate Fallout, Miles Morales books and hip hop variants and all that other kind of stuff, which those are all great books. But there may be some blue ocean opportunities, and potentially Fantastic Four issue number 66 could be right up your alley. And I would add to that, as does Ariel, that you may also want to take a look at Fantastic Four number 67, which is the first full appearance of him, also known as Adam Warlock. And Ariel kind of points out here in his blog post that you have to get 66 and 67 together because it's almost like Fantastic Four 48, 49, and 50. They kind of go together. So if you believe that there is some potential in Adam Warlock, these are two books that you may want to check out. Ariel goes on to talk about a few other books, and again, I'll highlight one additional book, and the book that I'm talking about is Iron Fist number 14, and this is the first full appearance of Sabretooth. Now, this book is important because Wolverine is going to come to the MCU, and Wolverine is big, and one of Wolverine's arch enemies is, of course, Sabretooth. And so again, no one's paying attention to this book. It was hot a couple of years ago and now it is cooled off, but now could be the time for you to actually pick this book up. As with all things, I want to encourage you to read these blog posts, do your own research, decide what's best for you. But I want to give a huge shout out to Ariel for continuing to pull together these blue ocean opportunities for people to consider. So here's the question. With the end of Endgame, what comes next? Is there something that comes next related to the Avengers? This next blog post actually makes an argument for why the new Avengers and the Secret Invasion could be on the horizon and possibly already here right now. And the Secret Invasion is a really fantastic story arc. I'll tell you also that New Avengers is fantastic. This was a run that I remember reading back in the 2000s. I enjoyed it then. I read it again several months ago. I enjoyed it all over again. And so I am very hopeful that what this blogger is essentially predicting to be possible, I'm hoping that it actually does happen, because I would love to see Cap and Spider-Man come together, maybe with Wolverine, and actually form the new Avengers. And so if you're curious, you may want to check out this blog post, because there is an argument that is being made here that the pieces for the secret invasion are already on the table. And so there could be some potential with a specific book, that being New Avengers #1. I want to encourage you to check this blog post out, because again, there could be some magic here. So this next speculation book is, in my opinion, a pretty awesome one, because it's a book that you can potentially get for cover price. And I've actually read some of the comments that you guys have left on the videos, in which you've said, please continue to look at the full spectrum of spec books, from the not so expensive all the way up to the expensive books. And so this one is one that is potentially going to be in the wheelhouse of a lot of people, because you might be able to get it for cover price. And the book that we're essentially talking about is Death Metal issue #2. And this is going to be the first appearance of the Robin King. And so this is essentially a character that's been exposed to the Joker toxin, and is actually going to backfill a spot that has been created by the death of the Batman Who Laughs. He actually passed away, was killed by Wonder Woman recently, and so the Robin King is going to slide in his spot. Now, while we don't know what the future holds for this particular character, we don't know if this is going to be a Null-like character, for example, but because you might be able to pick it up for cover price, it might be worth the gamble. If this is something that you're interested in, I definitely want to encourage you to take a look at the blog post, the link down in the description. So this next blog post was actually inspired by one of you out there who wanted a blogger to actually talk about Mr. Kline, who had his first appearance in Daredevil issue #78. And this is a time-traveling robot that was giving the business to not only Daredevil and Black Widow, but also some of Daredevil's buddies, including Foggy Nelson and also Iron Man, Tony Stark. And so this is an interesting blog post that actually provides us with a little bit of background into who Mr. Kline is, the role that he has essentially played, and the blogger also kind of puts it out there that this could be a character that we could see some magic be made with in the future. And while this could potentially be a long shot, that's what speculation is sometimes. So you might want to check this out. If you're a Daredevil fan, if you are a fan of a long-term or long-play kind of speculation thing, you may want to take a look at this blog post. And again, this was inspired by you guys. So at a minimum, there's going to be a couple of people that are going to click on the link down in the description and check this one out. And I would definitely encourage you to continue putting your recommendations for what you want the bloggers to cover down in the description, because clearly Go Collect is reading these things and actually having bloggers to create blog posts based upon your recommendations. And as evidenced by this video, I too will be covering those things. So this next blog post is an interesting one, because it is a direct response to another blog post that was put out there a few weeks ago by a blogger by the name of Ryan. And Ryan's blog post was entitled, "What Should We Do with Comics Depicting Racism?" And in this blog post, the blogger is responding to Ryan. And they highlight that they read Ryan's blog post a few weeks ago and started to type out a response in the comments section. And they realized that their response was pretty robust. And so they actually decided to turn that comment into a full blog post, which is actually entitled "A Humble Proposal for Comics Depicting Racism. And I'm not going to talk about the details of this blog post, but I am going to invite you to take a look at it. The link is down in the description. So again, I want to encourage you to check this one out and give it some thought and ask yourself, what would you do if you own these books, or if you see these books at a con, or if you had an opportunity to buy these books? What would you do with them? Miles Morales is the man. There is no doubt about that. With everything that is happening right now, the prices for his book are just skyrocketing in an unbelievable way. And this book came out, I think it was back in 2011 or something like that. So it's been a little bit of time, but he is now all the rage. And this blog post actually takes a look at some of the sales data associated with Miles Morales. And there's a really fantastic chart in here. And I want to cover off on some of the data points that the blogger talks about. But they specifically look at the values associated with a 9.8 all the way down to an 8.0. And the blogger shows here that a 9.8 is selling, or has an FMV, if you will, of $985. And that is a 67% return. At a 9.6 at $420, it is an 79% return. 9.4 at $399, an 87% return. Dropping down to like an 8.0 at $79, it still has a positive return of basically 15.5%. Miles Morales is super hot, and there is the potential for him to actually get hotter. Just earlier today, I was reading an article that was out there talking about Marvel's partnership with Scholastic. And you guys know Scholastic back from your school days, where you used to get that little bifold thing out of newspaper, and you would, color in the box for the different types of books that you wanted to receive in the weeks ahead from Scholastic. Marvel has actually formed a deal with Scholastic to actually deliver comics about Miles Morales to schools. And that right there is going to skyrocket his popularity, and in many ways cement this character for the next generation. And it is going to be very interesting how this actually plays out. Trust me when I tell you. So while I think that Miles Morales is overpriced, there are some people that are still saying you should pick these books up, because again, there may be some long-term potential here for generations to come. If you are interested in Miles Morales, you definitely want to check out not just this blog post, but many of the others that have been discussed and posted to Go Collect in the last couple of weeks. So there you have it. We have reached the end of another week, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. And if you did, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. And I also want to encourage you to come back next week when we get to do this all over again.